Right. Hello, everyone. We hope you are all well. Are you well too, Anthony?
Doing well today. Doing well.
Good. Good. I'm glad to
Another
hear one of us
day.
is doing good. All right. We hope you guys are all well as well. Welcome to another Cab Night, Tuesday night. It's our night, all of us together. And today we've got lesson 6. And the lesson 6 today is quite interesting. It's about matter and form. Now, matter and form is very important, as you know, we studied the perception of reality a few lessons back. Perception of reality is very important because it gives us the right approach to perceive reality rather than the fake reality that we're perceiving at this point in time. So what do we say about what Kabbalists talk about? We said in Kabbalah there is the person, the individual, the observer, and on the outside there's nothing. All right, where in other approaches, like from Newton, we say that a person exists and reality exists, and if a person dies, reality carries on existing. And then we talked about Einstein and we talked about quantum theory, how realities change with respect to a person, or the reality and the person changing together. But in Kabbalah we said, well, there is the person and that's it, nothing else. So all the things that we see in the world seemingly appear to be on the outside, they are all actually seen inside our head, at the back of our heads here. So it's like we're watching a movie, although we don't feel like we're watching a movie. And the whole idea of studying Kabbalah is to actually come to perceive reality correctly. That's actually what spiritual attainment is. Higher consciousness, having a soul. In fact, having a soul is the ability to perceive reality correctly. And today's lesson, matter and form, is very interesting because it's an addition to what we learned in the perception of reality. Now, until then, I think we're all good. If you have any questions, any dramas, anything whatsoever, you want to give us a shout, please do so as usual.
Right here waiting for you.
And yeah, Anthony will pick them up and we'll try to nail those as best we can. So, matter and form in Kabbalah. Also at the same time, we're going to be reading from this book, Kabbalah for the Student. So if you got one, keep it handy. We're going to do a bit of reading. Now, in Kabbalah, what we talk about basically is the individual and how the individual perceives reality. And we usually draw ourselves as, how do we draw ourselves? As a vessel, right? A vessel that perceives things. And whatever influence seems like it's from the outside is actually perceived inside of us. And whatever is on the outside, for us, it's as good as La La Land because we don't know what it is. Anything that's on the outside, we have no idea of what it is. The only thing we can really say is that something is influencing us, and according to that we have all kinds of sensations which we feel inside of us, inside our brains, inside our hearts. Okay, everything is actually a sensation. Now, brain and heart are two things that we have, but the most important thing is the feeling, sensation. Why? Because we're sensual creatures. So spirituality is actually feeling a reality, a mechanism which is composed of sensations. Sometimes when we talk about reality, we always talk about a system. And a system, when we think about a system, well, it's like mathematical equations. How can that have emotion? How can all the stars, the planets, the way that the whole world is functioning have any feelings at all? But although we ask this question, it's quite logical. If we are creatures who feel things, then obviously the system must be a sensory system. It must be a sensory organ-related system. So it's quite logical. The answer is within the question if we know our nature. And what we'd like to talk about today is matter and form. And normally when we talk about matter, we usually talk about an object. And when we talk about the form of the matter, we normally talk about its shape or its character in terms of its material principles or material character, let's say, characteristics. However, when we talk about matter and form in spirituality, we are only talking about how we're created as a desire to receive, just like this vessel I drew here. Okay, so this is our matter, desire to receive. We are all desire to receive pleasure machines. And everything we feel inside of it is the form of the desire. So we're a desire to receive, and the pleasure in it is the form that desire takes. And that's all there is to it. So let's read a little bit from page 471 and let's see what Baal HaSalam is telling us. 71 or 17? 71, 471. And the article is called Matter and Form in the Wisdom of Kabbalah. So, and which part are we going to read from that? Matter and form. Okay, well, you know what, we can just read a little bit. In fact, let me see what points to read, because this is the whole big article. Matter and form, abstract form. Well, let's read a little bit and see how we go. Okay, we can actually read the whole thing because it's only a page long. All right, so page 471, Matter and Form in the Wisdom of Kabbalah. As a whole, science is divided into two parts. One is called material research and the other formative research. This means that matter and form are perceived in every element of the entire reality before us. For example, a table consists of matter, meaning the wood, and consists of form, the shape of the table. The matter, being the wood, is the carrier of the form, the table. Also in the word liar, there is matter, which is a person, and there is a form, the lie. So the matter, which is the person, carries the form of a lie, meaning the custom of telling lies, and so it is in everything. Hence, science too, which researches the elements of reality, is divided into two parts, material research and formative research. The part of science that studies the quality of the substances in reality, both materials without their form and materials along with their forms, is called material research. This research is empirical, based on evidence and deductions derived from practical experimentation, and these practical experimentations are treated as a sound basis for valid deductions. The other part of science studies only forms of abstracted from materials without any contact with the substances themselves. In other words, they shed the forms of true and false from the materials, which are the people who carry them, and engage only in research to know such values of superiority and inferiority in these forms of truth and falsehood as they are for themselves, bare as though they were never clothed in any matter. This is called formative research. This research is not based on practical experiments, for such abstract forms do not appear in practical experiments, as they do not exist in the actual reality. This is because such an abstract form is imaginary, meaning only the imagination can picture it, even though it does not exist in the actual reality. Hence, any scientific research of this kind is necessarily based solely on a theoretical basis. This means that it is not taken from practical experimentation, but only from a research of theoretical negotiations. The whole of the higher philosophy belongs to this kind, hence many contemporary intellectuals have left it, since they are displeased with any research built on theoretical basis. They believe it is not a sound basis, for they consider only the experimental basis as sound. And the wisdom of Kabbalah too is divided into these two parts, material research and formative research. But here there's a great advantage over secular sciences. Here even secular sciences means worldly sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, botany and so on. But here there's a great advantage over secular sciences. Here even the part of formative research is built entirely on the critique of practical reason, meaning on a practical empirical basis. What does that all mean? In a nutshell, we like to experiment things that are material, so we understand what its form is afterwards. So anything that's not material is a subjective issue, because then we philosophize about it. It's not solid, it's not grasped in our hands. So if we take the form of something out of the material, it becomes all blurry, airy-fairy. And all kinds of philosophies can come out of it. And all those philosophies cannot bring us to a conclusive deduction. So what should we do? Well, Kabbalists are saying, listen, the whole of reality is inside the person who's observing it. So there are only two things we can do here. One is the matter, the desire to receive, and anything that happens in that specific desire to receive takes the form, and when those two things, the material, the desire, and the form in it, the sensations felt in it, come together, it should give us a conclusion. And that conclusion should be scientific too. So all of us actually going through the same process of spiritual development should come to the understanding that at a specific desire clothed in our matter should give us the same approach every time, the same conclusion every time we go through it. And that's what in spirituality empirical scientific approach is, just like in worldly sciences. So this is what we need to do in Kabbalah as well. This is why in Kabbalah we don't have philosophy, only something that is really attained, grasped in the pinnacle of understanding can we then give it a name. Other than that, we can't really give it a name because it's not 100%, it's not concrete. This is why Kabbalah is a science, but the science of Kabbalah is the research of the individual, of him or herself. All right, that makes sense. Since we're researching ourselves, and we ourselves are the matter, and anything that's felt in that matter with respect to any desire that we have is the form, is the sensation of our matter, then we have something to talk about. And this is what the Kabbalists are only writing about. So they're talking about certain desires and the pleasures and the sensations felt in those desires. And those desires that are felt inside of us with this fulfillment, in other words, in the fulfillment with the connection with the Creator is what they're talking about. And if we attain those levels, we should actually be going through the same kind of sensations. This is why they wrote the books in the first place, just like we write physics books, chemistry books, and so on. Scientists write books because if we do the same thing that they did, carry out the same experiments that they did, we should come to the same conclusion, right? That's what science is. Empirical research, if we do it 10,000 times, we should come to the same result. So the Kabbalists are also writing books to us saying, listen, when you get to these spiritual levels, these higher levels of consciousness, you should be going through this state. And because these states are all from the perspective of the observer, who feels the perception of reality in his or her own individual way, then that state, every time that occurs in us, it should give us the same sensation. Just like in this world, we have a common perception of reality with our five senses, right? So we all understand that chocolate is sweet. So the Kabbalists say, yeah, let's say they're talking about spirituality, and in spirituality there's a thing called chocolate, and let's say it's on the 7th degree. So on the 7th degree there's chocolate. We understand from their description that because at that level we attain that, we understand that it's sweet. How sweet and how it's felt in everybody else, though, is different. So we have a common understanding of what sweet is, but the degree of sweetness felt by all of us is different. We feel different sensations of sweetness. For some it might not be that sweet, for some it might be too sweet, and so on, but we have a general understanding of sweet. And same in spirituality. That's why spirituality is also an empirical science. Otherwise, writing the books would make no point. So just like we have a common reality here, we have a common reality in spirituality, but that spiritual reality is felt inside of us differently because we're all different. Just like our faces are different, just like our opinions are different, our thoughts are different, our desires are different. Also in spirituality, those factors are also different. However, within that common reality, we go through similar sensations, and therefore it is possible for them to write about it. And then as we study them and go up and up and up in higher levels of spirituality, we can then say, that's what he's writing about. Wow, that's what I feel now. Okay, so on. And that's what matter and form in spirituality is. So what we need to understand here is that we're looking at reality from our own perspective. Our matter is the desire to receive, and the form it takes are the sensations that are inside that desire. Well, that all took 18 minutes. Any questions?
Oh, yes.
Did I go too fast? Am I too fast? Guys, if I went too fast, please let me know.
Yes, we've got some good questions here. Let's see here. Stephen from the UK. Stephen is asking, everything I experience, including my identity, are imaginary or illusionary. The only reality and the real I is unknowable. How can Kabbalah make the unknowable knowable? Is it not enough to know that we are the creator and know nothing about what that is? Just be the best will to receive we can be?
Was that Stephen, right?
Stephen, yes.
Okay. Let me just read that again. Everything, just so that I understand, Stephen. Everything I experience, including my identity, are imaginary and illusory. Right, but listen, you can't say that. Why? Because we're not there yet. Okay, in our life, we can't say our reality is an illusion, because tomorrow you might go to work, right, and let's say, I don't know, you had a bad day at work. You can't really say it's an illusion because you feel really bad inside and upset and angry or whatever, because right, we're going through all these emotions, and while we're going through all these emotions, stresses and everything, we don't really feel like it's an illusion. Otherwise we'd never worry about it. So saying it's an illusion but not living it like an illusion is contradictory. Okay? So what we need to do is to come to a level where we see this world as an illusion, and that can only happen if Stephen here with his dot in the heart develops his dot in the heart, and his dot in the heart goes up here and then looks down from above and says, oh my God, he says, this Stephen is living in La La Land, and this is the real Stephen. Okay, did I spell your name right there? Okay, yeah. All right. So we need to actually first get ourselves up here, right, with our dots in the heart, attain a soul, right, that sixth sense, that higher level of consciousness, and look down what's here. Because remember, previously we spoke about that triangle, right? We said at the human level, what do we have? We have animate level, vegetative level, human level, right? So at the human level, this is human, pardon, let's say animate, animate, vegetative, still level, and this is the human level, and let's call this level, all right, spiritual. Now currently, okay, this is the spiritual level. Now, because currently we're in the human level, speaking level, right, according to this world, because normally human is a spiritual level, but let's just, for the sake of argument, compliment ourselves and think we're humans, just for the sake of argument, and we'll feel good about ourselves. Okay, from this level, we discussed before that we can understand the animate level, we can understand the vegetative level, and we can understand the still level. All the sciences of this world, physics plus chemistry, botany, biology, so all the still level, astronomy. So all those sciences we can understand, we can relate to them. However, the human level, right, this is our psychology, we have no clue about, because psychology can't actually cure anything. Right? So even if you went to psychotherapy, you won't get cured. The reason you won't get cured is because we're all different. And because we're all different, you can't have a formula that fits everyone. So, in order to understand our reality, the reality that we're in, and to understand the psychology of the human level, we need to get ourselves up to here and then study the human level, and then we can understand our psychology. Now, the beauty of it is only you can do that. So only Stephen can get up here into the spiritual and then fix the human level in him from above there, from the spiritual level. And then we can see how much of an illusion we're in. Okay, so that's the first part of your question. So we can't really say we're living in an illusion when in fact we're feeling all the pressures of this world. So the second part of the question is, the only reality and the real I is unknowable. It's not unknowable, it will be knowable. Otherwise, what's the point of studying it, right? So what we have to do is this Stephen here, with his dot in the heart, has to. It's the purpose of creation. Everybody will have to do this. All right, one way or another, we're all going to have to get spiritual. All right. All of us, all of humanity will have to attain this. It's the purpose of reality. It's the purpose of creation. So we all need to get up here. ASAP would be good, but in the meantime, not a lot of people are interested. What can you do? Suffering will push us to be interested. Okay, so so this is called preparation, prep period. Prep period. So we are in the process of building that reality. So it will be knowable. How can Kabbalah make the unknowable knowable? Well, that's called the study of Kabbalah. That's our wisdom, isn't it? That's the wisdom of Kabbalah. So we will study the wisdom or the science of Kabbalah, and we shall know the unknown. All right, so this is only lesson 6, so you'll have to bear with us a little bit as we progress. What else? Is it not enough to know that we are the creator and know nothing about what that is? Well, how can we be the creator and know nothing? Okay, because it's just contradictory, right? It doesn't make sense. If we were the creator, we'd know everything. So what we want to be, we're not the creator. There is a creator and there's the created being. We're the created being, but with a mission impossible, which we will make possible with the help of the creator, because the whole purpose of creation is to rise to his level of existence. And then we can be like the creator. So Stephen with his dot in the heart will be similar to the creator. And that's the goal of everyone. So we need to get there. Just be the best will to receive we can be. To be the best will to receive you can be is a great idea. I'm all with you on that one. So we're going to have to study and make our will to receive the best will to receive by adding to it a screen called the intention to bestow. So we're going to have to add this on our will to receive. And with this, we will be able to, the Creator will bestow to us, we'll be able to receive what He wants to give us, but we'll be able to do it in order to bestow. So we'll have that reciprocal relationship. This part is actually called the soul. All right, then your soul can be just like the Creator when you attain this attribute here. It's called a screen. All right, so I guess that covers every sentence.
So to you broke it down perfect.
All right, now remember guys, the important thing here in the wisdom of Kabbalah is that we are focusing on our individual change. The whole wisdom of Kabbalah is giving us, it's a method that gives us the ability to observe the whole of reality from the outside. From the outside of our will to receive. While maintaining our will to receive, we get a second perspective of looking at reality from the attribute of bestowal when we get into that spiritual zone. But the observer and what the observer sees is still going to be you, the individual. So it's something that the person has to develop. It's like going to medical school, right? You go to medical school, you study, you work hard, and you end up being a doctor. Well, same here. You come to study Kabbalah, you study hard, and you get spiritual and become a Kabbalist. Isn't that great? But nobody else can do it instead of you. And just like our world, it's not that complicated. The wisdom of Kabbalah is a very, very simple science. Very, very simple science. All we have to do is study and use the environment to connect practically, and then all the sensations we feel inside of us becomes material for inner work, so we can discern what our true nature is, and from that build the opposite of what our true nature is, which is opposite to egoism is bestowal, altruism. So it's very easy. Anyone can do it. You don't have to be Superman, Einstein, or anybody else with a smart talent. You just need to have a very special thing you do need to have is this little dot in the heart that just won't stop bugging you about the meaning of your life. Horrific question, isn't it? What is the meaning of your life? And you got no answer. Wow. Oh, all of a sudden you find Kabbalah. Isn't that great? What else do I want to tell you? Is there if there's a question, you stop me, Anthony.
Yes, here we go. Tatiana from Romania is asking.
Yeah.
If there is nothing outside of me, what are you?
What am I? That's a good question. Well, for one thing,
I ask myself that sometimes.
Oh, that's a good question. All right, let's skip back to the perception of reality lesson. What did we learn in the perception of reality, right? Who's asking? Tatiana, right?
Tatiana from Romania.
Tatiana from Romania is asking. So this is you, Tatiana, right? That's you. Okay, I'm really bad at drawing. Okay, so this is just...
No, you actually just got some compliments on your illustrations.
Oh, okay.
Larry from Kenya says that following the discussion and the illustrations are a really big help.
Okay, good, good. All right, so Tatiana, okay, just think of this as the back of your head, okay. So right, what do we have? We have your eyes, and then we have your nose, and then we have your mouth, and then there we go, right? And we have your ears here, and then you've got hands, let's say. Okay. Now the whole of reality, Kabbalists say, are not on the outside, but there is a force that influences our 5 sensory organs, and according to that influence, we see this world at the back of our heads. So the whole of reality is the back of your head. So who am I? I am a depiction of the whole of reality inside you, and on the outside, the force that's giving us this influence is called, oh, I'd love to call him Mr. Nice Man, but I'm having such a bad day today, I'll just call him Creator. All right, so the Creator is influencing the whole of reality, and we can draw it like this as well. This is the whole of reality. And the Creator is on the outside, and He's influencing the whole of reality. And we see, well, what we think we see is all in our minds, at the back of our heads. So what are all these things that appear to you on the outside? Well, they're all parts of Tatiana. All right, so let's say this is Miss T. Okay, and all of us here, so who am I? Okay, let's see. This is Marty, me, Marty.M.Meydan. Okay, let's call me 3M. Okay, Marty.M.Meydan. So that's me inside Tatiana. And this is, let's say, Anthony next to me. And all the other 8 billion people, plus the vegetative, the animate, the still level, everything are all parts of you. And you are this desire to receive pleasure. This is why from all the levels of creation we can actually receive pleasure. We also feed off from all the levels of reality as well. From the human level, well, we're not cannibals obviously, but from the human level we feed emotionally, we eat vegetables, and all the lower levels we eat. Okay, eat vegetables, we can eat animals as well, and we can eat still level as well. I'm sure you guys all like a bit of salt on your meat, right? Or your veggies if you're a vegetarian. So we feed off from all the levels, emotionally and physically, because they're all parts of our desire to receive. As we advance in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we'll begin to put those things all together. Then what you'll begin to see is when anything makes an impact on you, then you begin to relate it as to how you need to make changes within you so that that reality can actually be corrected.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to be another whole, well, we'll study it later on down the line. Right now, what we just need to know a few things, right? Let's keep it simple and pragmatic. No philosophy. Okay, right now this reality is what we're living in. So it looks like everything is on the outside, and I feel everything in the corporeality and in my sensations. And I feel everything in my sensations inside of me. That's also clear. Beyond that, let's not call it an illusion, let's not call it a dream, let's call it our reality. This is how we feel reality, and this is how it is right now as a fact. That's how you need to take it. We must always take the state of what we're in, the current state of existing and sensing as real. We must never think of ourselves as described in the books and imagine that we're there when we're not there. Otherwise, that'll turn into philosophy, and then it'll just be another big mess like in human history. Okay. Let's read a little bit more before we answer a bit more questions. Let's see, what have I got here? A spiritual vessel is called a force. Kabbalah for the student, page 100. How can Kabbalists discuss the Creator? Let's find out. Page 100. Okay, the spiritual is a force without a body. Is that what we're reading? A spiritual vessel is called a force. Okay, so in this book, we're down on the second paragraph from the bottom of page 100, Kabbalah for the student. The article is called The Wisdom of Kabbalah and Philosophy. And there's a subtitle here, a spiritual vessel is called a force. This is the place to point out that the force that spirituality speaks of does not refer to the spiritual light itself. So spirituality does not... Okay, so this is our vessel, and that's the light. So rule number 1, this is the place to point out that the force that spirituality speaks of does not refer to the spiritual light itself. So this is not what we're talking about. This is not a force we're talking about. That spiritual light extends directly from his essence. That's the Creator. So it comes straight from the Creator. Yeah, and what else? And is therefore the same as his essence. So the light, until, it gets into the vessel, there's nothing to talk about. Okay, so this is, who's asking? Tatiana. So this is Miss T. Okay, and there's the light or the Creator. It's all good on the outside. That's all. Actually, there's only the Creator and you. Isn't that great? No need for any middlemen. His essence. Okay, this means that we have no perception or attainment in the spiritual light that we may define by name. Even the name light is borrowed and is not real. Thus we must know that the name force without a body refers specifically to the spiritual vessel. Let's read that again. A spiritual vessel is called a force. This is the place to point out that the force that spirituality speaks of does not refer to the spiritual light itself. The spiritual light extends directly from his essence and is therefore the same as his essence. This means that we have no perception or attainment in the spiritual light that we may define by name. Even the name light is borrowed and is not real. Thus we must know that the name force without a body refers specifically to the spiritual vessel. This means, practically, very simple. If I don't feel any sensation inside of me, which I can define as the light, there's nothing to talk about. So the Kabbalists are very pragmatic, as you can see. All right. However, if I do feel something, then they say, whoa, wait a minute. I feel something. And this thing that I feel inside my vessel is called light. So the light inside the vessel is defined as a force. Okay? Only if we feel the Creator, his influence, his relationship to us, then can we say there's the creator on the outside. But you're saying, but wait a minute, Marty, you're writing creator every lesson, and you're telling us now there's no creator? Well, until you feel the creator, there is no creator. You can't just believe there's a creator just because I said so. You might as well join a religious group if you believe that. Okay? So rule number one. Rule number one. We also don't believe anything until we attain it. So the Kabbalists are writing to us step by step. We do take their advice, apply it, and then once we apply their advice, we attain what they're talking about. From the attainment, you come to belief. All right? Now, that's very important as well. Any questions there?
We have a bunch of questions. Claire from the UK says, Claire from the UK says, what happens to the dot in the heart when we die if we haven't developed it at that time?
Oh, very beautiful question. Well, because we are living in a sensory system where everything in creation can never disappear. Let's say Claire is here. Let's say that's Claire. Okay, so this is Claire. This is Miss C. All right. Because we're in this system, we're part of the system. This dot in the heart, even if you haven't developed it yet, remains. It cannot die, it cannot disappear. We are all parts of creation. So what this overall creation is going through is cycles of development. There we go. Miss C.
So Stephen from the UK is asking, so the creator is knowable, but his essence is unknowable. Is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, the essence of anything is not known. Even the essence of this pen, we don't know its essence. We just have this material and we have this shape. Okay, we can say it's black, we can say it's plastic, but the essence of the pen itself, we can never know. We don't even know our own essence. Thank goodness the Kabbalists described it to us as a desire to receive. Then we can relate to it somehow. But really, our own essence? If you went out onto the street and asked somebody, what is your essence, mate? He'd look at you and think.
Stephen is also asking, in relation to that, and the creature becomes similar to the creator, but never one with the creator?
That's right. Being one with the creator sometimes is written in the books, but that means that we take the same form as the creator. Being one with the creator means I am like him. But otherwise, if we together united as like one body, right, then it defeats the whole purpose. In spirituality, connecting, being one, means that we are similar to each other. So just like the creator is bestowing, if the created being is also bestowing, then in spirituality they are considered as one because they're functioning in the same way. That's what being together with the creator means. But we need to understand what that really is in its exact definition. Yeah.
And Stephen is saying, is the point in the heart not the real I? And so it's the creator in essence?
The point in the heart is a potential Stephen, right? Not the real Stephen yet. A potential Stephen. The real Stephen is going to be here, right? When you have a desire, this is your desire to receive. Desire to receive. This is your screen or your soul, when both of them are together, then the real Stephen can stand up.
Now, Mike from South Africa is asking, I hear what you're saying, but I find it very hard to make sense of it. Is it really possible to make sense of Kabbalah?
I should hope so. Listen, if I made sense out of it, I'm sure you all can. I'm not being modest. All right, I'm an average guy. And as an average guy, if I can make sense of it, anybody can. Also, when you come to the study of Kabbalah, it first is a bit confusing because it's teaching us to look at everything upside down, really. It's a very different approach, and it teaches things that we never learned before. So we have no foundation, we have no basis for it, we've got nothing to hold on to. But in time, it sinks in, and then because when you're studying and you're practically applying it over time, then you begin to understand that this is how it is, and then it becomes easy to talk about. See, I talk with all these diagrams. I'm showing you how it's working out. Why? Because over time you go through these states, and then you can say, oh, well, this is the Stephen right now, and this is what Stephen has to do in order to get there, and then that's what the real Stephen will be. It just becomes, it's like describing our children how it's like to grow up, or how it's like to go to school. Why? Because we've done it, we've been there, so we can talk about it. So at first we will have a few dramas, but any drama is necessary, because without dramas we can't actually develop. So all these blurriness, the question marks and not understanding, not grasping and all this is very, very good, because this is how we can expand our minds. If I said something and you guys got it just like that, it's like giving a full, it's like giving a full person another plate of food. He's like not gonna take it. So we have to make sure that every time I'm explaining something, you guys leave the class with a complete confused mind, so we can meet again next Tuesday with an empty stomach.
Now, Simona Varga from Romania says, how can I make the unknown known when I perceive so little through my five senses? As an observer, I can only see limited.
Well, Simona, that's the whole trick, isn't it? That's the whole study of wisdom of Kabbalah. In time, it'll happen. Just like I explained with Stephen, over time we're going to study, and over time, just like kids develop through school, we're going to develop as well, and then everything will settle down. It's like building a jigsaw puzzle. We have to put one piece at a time, and as we build it, it just begins to get clearer and clearer, and then I can pick the pieces off easier. So in the meantime, it's very important for a person who studies Kabbalah to be patient. Patience, persistence is very, very important. Passion is very important. Okay, so you can make that your 3P rule in Kabbalah: patience, persistence, and passion. If you've got those three things towards this wisdom, you guys will make it in no time.
Now, our friend Emmanuel from Lagos, Nigeria is asking, what does Kabbalah say about keeping the culture and tradition of a people?
Oh, we love cultural stuff. In fact, after every Congress, we have a cultural evening. Wherever there's a Congress, we have a cultural evening, because we actually think cultures bring people together. So all the different cultures are very nice. You don't have to change them. You can carry on doing them. You can be a part of it. That's great. And the beautiful thing about cultural stuff is that mostly all cultural stuff get together around a nice meal, which we love very much.
We love very much.
Okay, we love to eat around here, believe it or not. All right, so cultural stuff is great. You should keep your cultural heritage. I think it's great because it enriches the world. Imagine all of us being the same culture. It would be really boring, right? And we don't like being boring here. This is why we have all kinds of varieties of people with all different cultures, perspectives, foods. That just imagine the variety of food there is on the planet. Imagine if there was only fish and chips with mashed potatoes or something, or fish and chips boiled peas and carrots. How awful would that be? So
after about 3 days, I get sick of it.
You would get sick. You'd also get obese, I reckon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very good to have different cultures, and everyone should preserve them. Later on, we'll actually use all those cultures, all those differences, as a leverage to connect beyond our differences. So yeah, carry on.
Now, Tatiana says, reality equals creation of the creator. Is that correct? Or reality refers to my perception of creation?
Reality refers to your perception of creation. Okay, that's your reality. Right now, this world is your reality. Hopefully, we'll be changing that soon. If you stick around, that is.
Now, Enoch says, someone asked me a question about death, and I couldn't answer him properly. Why do we die?
Well, why not? Okay, there's nothing special about this bag of protein. Just like chickens die, chickens also walk on two legs. Actually, I met a few chickens this weekend. All right, and just like they die, we also die. Dying in the animate form is death, but we belong to our higher level. And in spirituality, there's no such thing as death. Just like I explained here a minute ago for Claire. She asked a similar question. She said, well, what happens if we pass away and we don't develop our dot in the heart? Well, nothing really happens, because in reality, nothing disappears. So in reality, everything exists. We're all here. And this system is going through cycles of development. So dying doesn't really do anything. The best way to die is to reach your final correction and then die. Then you can really say, oh, I've nailed it. However, we're not talking about this protein, okay, this flesh and bones. We have to start looking at our lives beyond that. Otherwise, we get stuck in this body and we start thinking about the body, and we start, caring for the body, when in fact we should be caring for our soul. Obviously, I'm not saying live an unhealthy life. Of course, take care of your body to the extent that it needs to be taken care of in a healthy lifestyle. However, what we really need to focus on is our soul, because we have an understanding that our corporeal life is limited. So within this limited time, we've got to be a little smart and make a calculation. What is worthwhile going after? Because life goes by very quick. I actually was teaching last night. I gave this exercise to the students from yesterday. So if you have old photographs, right? I'm 46 and I've got photographs from at the 80s and the 70s. So if I flip through those sometimes, just to remind me how life goes by. So if you look at those past photographs, even from a few years ago, you don't have to go back 20 years, even from a few years ago, if you look at them and if you think about them, you think, oh my God, how did I go through, did I do these things? Did I live these things? Because we don't remember it, or we don't really feel it. And if you're like from the 80s generation like me, it was great, because you could do anything and nobody has any record of it anywhere. Yeah, this generation, you got to keep a track for everything. So if you just think about it, it's just really weird that we don't really feel all those things that we lived in the past. So it's very important for us to make sure that we give the amount of importance and value to the moment that we're in, so that from this moment we can develop even further. Let's do a bit of reading. We've got a few minutes left. I want to read from the book of Zohar, Introduction to the book of Zohar. And that's on page 121, item 21, paragraph 2. This is a really important article. Introduction to the book of Zohar, item 21, paragraph 2. But as we have said, the whole substance of creation, both the substance of the spiritual objects and the substance of the corporeal objects, is no more and no less than a will to receive. That's it. All right. So everything we've got, our form, the substance of creation, whether it's spiritual or corporeal, is just a desire to receive. That's all. We should start to look at life like that, right? Instead of looking at ourselves like a body, think of yourself as a roaming desire to receive pleasure. What else? And although we said that the soul is entirely a desire to bestow, it is only through corrections of reflected light that it receives from the upper worlds from which it comes to us. Yet the very essence of the soul is a will to receive as well, and the difference we can tell between one object and another is discerned only by its will, for the will in any essence creates needs, and the needs create thoughts and concepts so as to obtain those needs which the will to receive demands. So all in all, even in spirituality, we're always going to be a will to receive. This is never going to change. However, the way we use the substance, this will to receive, is going to change. Instead of using it for our egoistic fulfillment, where we harm others, we're going to use it in a bestowing way where we can actually love others. Instead of loving me, we'll be loving others. Isn't that great? Doesn't sound so great when you're an egoist, but trust me, as we develop, we begin to discover that loving others has such a pleasure in it that you'd never want to stop loving others. All right, hope that sounded right. I think that's right. I think I got that right. Now, if we also understand reality in this way, if we take a look at it from this perspective, you'll be able to read the books of Kabbalah and you'll be able to understand things much better, because you'll be referring to everything as a desire to receive, and from that desire to receive, how we're acting, how we're seeing, how we're perceiving, how we're feeling, and on top of those feelings, how we can bring understanding to make sure that we can reconcile everything we go through in this world. And that is knowing everything that happens to you while you're living in this world is called spirituality through the wisdom of Kabbalah. I think I've just made it with 2 minutes left for questions.
Okay, so we have here, Simone is asking, do you think that all the theories about who we are and how the Creator is real reality?
Well, if we think about it, we'll never make it. We have to attain it. And the surest way to attain is just like we attain anything in this world. We study it, we observe it, we take the advice of Kabbalists, we apply it. And from the books, after we apply it, we measure how they describe the outcomes and how we feel the outcomes, and then we can, according to that benchmark, move ever so forward.
Louisa is asking, what is formative wisdom Kabbalah?
Formative is to actually observe a certain quality within the substance. However, we can't really observe any form unless it's clothed in the substance. For example, it talked about being a liar. Now, lying is in most cultures considered bad. Thou shalt not lie. Okay? However, if you're going to save somebody's life, you can lie, because nothing is more important than saving somebody's life. Okay? You can break all the rules of ethics in order to save a life. So, is lying good now or bad? You see, it all depends on the intention. So it turns out that in life, there is no bad. It just depends on how you use everything. What else?
One last question, and it's from Jacob, and he says, are you going to tell us something interesting, inspiring about gematria, today or in the future? Do you think that understanding relations between words in mathematics might lead us to more enlightening knowledge?
No, it won't. I'll tell you why it won't, right? Our brain is not attuned to attain spirituality. I'll give you something interesting, okay? Elohim is God in Hebrew, and Teva is nature in Hebrew. And if you add them up in Hebrew, they have the same numerical value. That's gematria for you. Okay, that's knowledge, right? So now, according to that knowledge, can you please tell me how spiritual you got? You won't get spiritual with this, unfortunately. I wish we did. It would have made it a bit more easier. However, You can only get spiritual with this, okay? This little thing here instead of that little thing there. Because if we could get spiritual with this thing here, we'd already get spiritual with all the sciences we developed. However, we can't, because by nature we are sensual creatures. We feel first, understand later. We want first, then think about how we're going to get what we want later. So this thing will always and always and always function after you feel something here. So you can't get spiritual with your brain, I'm afraid. Right then, have we covered all angles today? Matter and form, in a nutshell, very important. We're a desire to receive, and what we feel inside it is the form it takes. We don't separate them. If you separate them, one without the other becomes philosophy. We're a desire to receive, and the form inside of it needs to be clothed in that desire to receive, so we can have sensations, and on top of that, reconciliations with our understanding. And then we can walk on two legs. Right, left. Feeling, understanding. Feeling, understanding.
Perfect. That was all the questions. Thank you to all the friends. We've got great friends from Liberia, the UK, Romania, Ghana, Kenya, Finland, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Nigeria, and I'm sure that there's some more. If I left some out, please forgive me, but wow, very impressive and great to see you all here this week.
Lovely. So that wraps up Tuesday evening, because I'm talking a little fast because we're down to 1 hour. Okay, it used to be 1.5 hours, but because now we're down to 1 hour, I just need to talk fast and make sure I cover everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. The show will go on next Tuesday, and we'll see you guys on the 7th lesson, which is revelation and concealment. It is going to be another good lesson, because we're going to talk about the revelation of the Creator and his concealment. Now you see him, now you don't. That's magic for you. Have a great evening, great day, depending where you are. All the best. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye now.